I can't wait to see. I love getting to see Fantasy this much too, because prior to this, I think we saw him a lot in kind of the winner's end of bracket tournaments.
Yes.
So to be able to see him play even more matches and get a better idea for his style, I think it's great.
Not only that, but like seeing that again, that there's not going to be round robins, like players are not guaranteed into the top 8 of the regional finals this time, and there are no guarantees, right? Again, we were talking about it's being consistent, and consistent play is how you're going to get there. When you see a name like Fantasy being one of the top 8 players from last year, and still just first tournament of the year, just coming back, pulling out all the stops, and getting there yet again, this is what we like to see. This is really proving to me that Fantasy, you know what? He's the guy. He's one of the guys, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
that goes to show, like we've talked about him before, like in the Shadow Nexus tournaments, he does really well in all of the release events. He's really good at identifying new strengths in new formats and just propelling them to victory.
he has a natural affinity towards the game.
That's right.
It's the way that I would put it. He has fun. It feels like he feels for his decks, right?
Yes.
When they lose, he feels distraught.
Emotionally.
When they win, he's excited and elated.
And actually, this game, we finally get to see Burn Runecraft at its peak. You've got the turn 1 Sigil. You've got the turn 2 Telescope to get you extra card draw. You've got the turn 2 Magic Illusionist to get this huge board presence. You got the follow-up Carl. This is exactly what you like to see when you're starting out with Burn Rune, especially on the play.
There's a question. If you had run the Magic Illusions in and then played the Carl, you would have taken no damage from Belladus, right?
Yeah, that's true. So maybe a little misstep there, but
let me send a message to Fantasy real quick.
Yeah, ordering. You know, sometimes you mess up a little bit, but that's okay. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal this time.
Yeah. Honestly, it's far and few in between that I get to see things like that happen. So I'm just happy that
when Rainey can point a mistake out, it's a good day. Okay.
It's a great day. Turn the frown upside down. EmperorTime is going to think a little bit about his turns here. He has the opportunity to put card draw into his followers, but we talk about this a lot. And Andrew Alphas doesn't gain a lot of stats.
Right, you're not going to be able to take out this Halo Golem if you do go for the Andrew Alphas play. Unfortunately, it's probably the best thing you can do. You don't really have a lot of other things going on here. You want to draw those cards. He might opt to kill. Yep, it looks like he's going for the Halo Golem here. That's not a bad play. It's just, he does have a backup Andrew Alphas too. I was going to say if this Andrew Alphas gets taken care of, then he won't have like repeated card draw, but the second one makes that a little bit easier.
Yeah. I do think it's important to really, I think in Shadowverse, there's many, many fewer things. That was very opposite, but there's a lot fewer things that you can just get away with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You're paying a price for getting card advantage. You're paying a price for making a decision to mitigate damage, right? You have to choose all of these very early on, and you have to understand what the matchups you're going into are, and kind of how your opponent is going to play the turns out.
I find it very interesting that Fantasy chose to evolve his Carl there instead of the Magic Illusionist. Generally speaking, you'd see the Magic Illusionist get evolved because you want your opponent to smack into that with their Evolution Orb. But it looks like he opted out of that. I think you actually lose damage in the long run doing it this way. But Fantasy thinks that this is the way to go. I'm not going to doubt him. He's already, 10 defense ahead here.
The only thing that I can think of off the top of my head is perhaps he wants to preserve the sigils. So he says, hey, if you want to get rid of my sigils, I want to still have the damage available. Or if you want to mitigate the damage, I want to still have my sigils.
You know what, Rainey? You were on point today because I think that was exactly the play. He wanted to make sure that that sigil stuck around for the Professor of Taboos. And now look at this board. Unfortunately for him, there is an O-Dial, but unfortunately for EmperorTime, it's not going to clear the entire board.
And this is the aggressive nature of burn decks that we have yet to see, and not a single burn spell play. I don't even think... Okay, he did play a Halo Golem. That's right.
He did play a Halo Golem. But I think this is when the deck is operating at its most efficient. You don't, like, having all of your burn spells still in your deck when your opponent's already at 6 makes these Wizardess of Oz's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and you have time, right? Look at that. You have 18 health, and just turn after turn of just finding whatever option you need to close out the game. Interesting that you would play your Oz on 0 play points.
I think he's just so far ahead, it just doesn't even matter. At this point, he's going to knock his opponent to 3, clear board, set up this huge board. I don't think there's any way EmperorTime can come back into this game.
okay.
Yep, Fantasy's like, yep.
Yeah. Fantasy, representing Canada, will win against EmperorTime for the first game here. His rune deck performed very admirably. I think he's going to feel pretty good about that.
Yep. And one thing I want to note about EmperorTime, first of all, he's a new player to this NGE style of tournament. He opted to let his camera be on the very first time he got here. And look at his composure. Just everything.
He lost the Mutagenic Bolt and it was like, just kidding.
Yep, we got everything anyway. It's not a big deal. But like I want to state, like, EmperorTime, even losing matches against even players like Fantasy, just his composure is great. He's just sitting there like, you know what? All right, next game, let's go.
Yeah. And he's played I mean, he's what, in the top 3?
He's doing super well.
Top 4?
Yeah. Very well.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying watching him play today.
Definitely a player to watch out for in future weeks to see if he gets back up here and he does stay consistent. Absolutely.
So Fantasy now on his Shadowcraft deck, and this is tough. I feel like, well, honestly, if we were to just take the stats, at face value, Fantasy's pretty well suited to win this, right?
Absolutely.
But that's not how you employ stats, right? But I do think he's going to be feeling very comfortable about these next few matches.
Having to win one game with a Shadowcraft deck out of 2 feels pretty good. It's a good spot to be in, absolutely.
Yeah. On the flip side, I really think it's important to really understand Dragoncraft's early game now. And I think EmperorTime, just based on the cards that we see right now, he's got removal, he's got ramp, he's got healing, he's got the Dread Sea as well too, which might come in big for him. And the thing that I really like about this is we talked about ramping too fast and not having the options, but when you're on the draw, you have a few more, right?
Yep.
You have the opportunity to get a few more cards, and I do think that's going to probably be very big, especially with the added Evolution Orb. EmperorTime is going to feel really good about that.
I actually love being on the draw with Dragon now, specifically because of the rework to Ayala. You need those Evolution Orbs early.
Yep.
You want to put yourself in a position to where all of your Evolution Orbs matter on defense, and that's exactly what being on the draw does for you with Dragon. Plus, like you said, you get access to 2 extra cards. Against an aggressive deck, sometimes that means that Breath of the Salamander or that ramp spell that you're missing, it comes into hand, and then you're like, okay, I can follow up with this game plan. This is great.
All right, so we see a scenario where we got 2 Scary Dragons and then a Queen of the Dread Sea. Option to play Sybil, but won't get the healing here, though I wonder if it might be...
I think this is just a pass turn. I think this is unfortunate. You never like to just pass a turn, but you don't get full value out of Sybil. You don't get full value out of Breath of the Salamander. You're not really worried about 2 1/1s. I think this is an okay pass turn.
There are definitely ways in Fantasy's hand to remove, combined with, whatever zombie party thing he wants to do or evolve play he wants to make. So that Sybil is definitely going to be removed if he plays it.
Absolutely. And you want to get that health back. Honestly speaking, and this is one thing that you might overlook if you're a newer Dragoncraft player, if you're just a newer player in general, getting the full extent of the value out of every single one of your cards. So what's the difference between playing Sybil there and not? It doesn't gain you any defense back. So you want to use it when it can. Same thing with Draconic Fervor. Same thing with pretty much any of those cards. Like if you're playing Saris in your Shadowcraft deck, is it going to gain you those 2 defense points back or not? Think about these things.
Oh, interesting. And on the flip side, here we see an example of a card that's not necessarily gaining its maximum value.
Wow, last Evolution Orb for Fantasy. Gonna be going face here.
I feel like this is a very classic Fantasy style approach.
Yeah.
He says, we're going fast, and we're not looking back.
We're not looking back. Now,
Very
the one
good.
downside to Canyon of Dragons is that it does not put the follower in play until the end of the turn, so you can't just actively play it if you need to deal
and
with the board.
evolve the 5/5s.
That's right.
Yep. Yep. But in many ways, that can actually be an advantage as well.
Absolutely. Now, and the way Fantasy set this up, he rightfully called out the 3 defense Sybil. He's got the zombie party for full value here, and he's just going to keep pressing the attack. And he's got Ektar in hand to finish out the game.
Oh, wow. Wow, EmperorTime. Whew. That was close. It was looking real bad. No Israfil. I mean, there was very little option. His Bahamut was one turn too late.
Tell you what, though, sometimes when you're the Emperor of Time, I'm just going to let that
Yeah.
sit there for a second.
The Emperor of Time. There it is. All right. So that leaves Fantasy with 2 skeletons. Wow. This is awkward.
This is. I think you just go for the
I think
damage
you
push
Thane.
here.
I think you Thane.
Thane's good here. Honestly, all of his options are good here.
I really like the Thane because you threaten the potential for putting him. Well,
Yep.
put him under 10, right?
Yep. And then you've got Aisha. Yeah, this is a perfectly set up game for Fantasy.
Interesting that he chose to get the 1 damage instead of 2.
I think that was just, for brute force factor. I have all of these followers in play. I want to make it so that it is as hard as possible for that Bahamut to actually hit my face. So keeping the extra follower is just that 1 extra, percentage point of that Bahamut, plus some craziness with Queen of the Dread Sea to not, finish me off.
Interesting. Takes another 2. Basically, I mean, really, if you don't have a ward, you are done, right?
Right. I think Bahamut is always the best play to counter Thane. Problem with that, Aisha coming on down, finish the game out, and that's exactly what Fantasy's going to do.
Fantasy, hey, the aggressive game plan works out way more often than it does for anybody else.
I know, man.
Than Fantasy. Fantasy always
Who
gets...
else evolves the 1/1 there, expending their last evolution orb to just get that extra damage in with the skeleton, but Fantasy making it look easy, and he'll be moving on.
There it is. EmperorTime with a lighthearted chuckle as he sees the Aisha come down and loses the match. What a great performance by EmperorTime.
And look at his composure. Big smile on his face even when he gets knocked.